Welcome to the Neurosports Performance Podcast. I'm Judah Boulay, the host. Today is our first episode. Just going to give you a little bit about my background and where I envision this podcast going. First off, there's a rugby ball behind me. That's because my passion, or the sport of my choosing, is rugby. There's a secondary love becoming now because I have two boys and both are into soccer. So I'm getting more and more into watching soccer and finding excitement with that. However, rugby has been the thing that has driven me for the past 20 years or so, since I found it in grad school in 1998. So my background, I've been training for 30 something years. I got into rugby in grad school in 1998 and was a player. And then when I moved back to Rhode Island, I played rugby in Rhode Island. Was never a very good rugby player. However, one of the things I did get into from being a player was I started refereeing, and I had a lot of success personally as a referee. And I moved up in the ranks nationally and did some really cool things as a referee on the national level. Because I'm the type that I can't just focus on one thing, I also coached for a bit, and then I kind of left. I coached while I was refereeing, but then I stopped coaching, focused mainly on refereeing because of a job, but then started getting back into coaching. And at the end side of my referee career, or where I was really focusing on refereeing, I started coaching a high school team in Massachusetts. I founded the team, coached that for 10 years. And then in 2016, started coaching again at Bryant University. And I've been the head coach there since 2016. So rugby is my sport. For fitness, I used to own, well, I was a high school teacher, but I also owned a CrossFit facility. And I really like CrossFit. I think CrossFit's a great training methodology for general fitness or for the sport of CrossFit. However, as much as I love CrossFit, I think that CrossFit is lacking when it comes to sports performance. Can athletes do CrossFit and become better at their sport or become better athletes? Yes, definitely. Any training program will make an athlete better. But if you're going to optimize sports performance, CrossFit's not the way to go. In my eyes, having a lot of experience with CrossFit, as well as having a lot of experience with sports performance, I think a sports performance program is much better suited for athlete development. Now, in the off season, if athletes are looking for a training program just to supplement, CrossFit's great. All right. But if they want to hone in on their sport and the abilities in their sport, I really think that sports performance training is the way to go. And when I look at sports performance training, I mean overall athletic development and all the primary movement patterns: squatting, hinging, vertical pushing and pulling, weighted carries, lunging, horizontal pushing and pulling. But related to sports performance. All right. So there's a lot of running, a lot of sprinting, a lot of jumping, a lot of change of direction, a lot of agility, footwork. All right. There's this sports performance is this big encompassing field. And there includes a lot of things, which I don't think CrossFit hits. So hence why I want to focus not on, as much as I love CrossFit and owned a CrossFit gym, when I talk about sports performance, I'm really talking about enhancing sports performance, and it's on the side and has nothing to do with CrossFit. So I have two boys, one's 8 and one's 6. They have seen their mother and myself work out for their entire lives. All right. I'm fully believing in that health arrives from the things that we put into our bodies and the things we do to our bodies. So we eat healthy and we train regularly. Their mom and I both have that same mindset. So our kids have been exposed to training, or parents that train, and parents are the best role models for their children. And my kids both love to train. They're both very active boys. And because they've seen us train and they started wanting to train themselves, they move very well. And when I look at my kids compared to other kids, unfortunately, there's a big drop off in terms of movement capabilities. This is something I also saw at the high school that I coached at. And I started coaching in 2007. I left there in 2017. And in that 10-year span, the capabilities of athleticism of the kids declined year after year after year. I think video games got more and more cooler, and kids spent more and more time engrossed into their phones and social media and video games as the years progressed when I was at the high school, because the more total athletes that were around decreased. And athleticism is something that can be developed in every child. A lot of times it's learned and ingrained just from times on the playground and running around and jumping and landing and all that at a playground. But a lot of kids don't get that much exposure these days because they're off playing a specific sport. There's not as much free play. There's a multitude of reasons. However, my best rugby players were crossover athletes. So they played a different sport, didn't have the skill in that sport, but they were athletes. They came to rugby within a month of me teaching them the basic rugby skills. They were dominant on the rugby field just because they had that athletic capability. So I want to build athletes, and I want to make youth athletes better by teaching them the specifics of movement and moving properly, and getting them to the point where they move better, because this is and they're stronger, they're faster, they're quicker, their jumping's good, their landing's good, because all these things in athletes decrease injury or decrease the chance of them getting injured. And with kids playing more and more of being one sport athletes from an early age, the chance of them being injured in that sport increases. How do we combat that? Well, making them better movers, right? By working on their overall athleticism, by strengthening their joints and fixing imbalances that they might have in their body. And one of the things, and that's the things that happens when we do this, is that if we take a kid or a youth athlete or a high school athlete and we make them better athletes, we make them better at their sport, all right? But then secondarily, we make them better in life, all right? They become better students. They have the ability to focus better. They have more confidence, and they have success not only on the field, they have success off the field. So that's why I really believe that focusing in on athlete development and sports performance and kids who are playing sports is essential. And I'm very passionate about that. Part of what drives me is that I want to see my own kids perform well on the field and off the field. And I want to coach them, and I want to coach my rugby players to do the same. And I want all kids to feel that, to have those same successes. So the podcast is going to delve into all things sports performance. We're going to focus on training. We're going to focus on nutrition. We're going to focus on individual successes on and off the field. We're going to focus on team successes on and off the field. I'm hoping to get a whole slew of cool guests over the course of the coming months, and have those guests talk about their training, their training philosophies, and their successes, their failures, and we'll have a grand old time doing so. So that's it for today, but stay tuned for our first episode coming in the next couple of weeks, and look forward to having you listen to us in the future. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the No Risk Sports Performance Podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for information on our guests. Also, be sure to check us out on the gram at No Risk Sports Performance. Until next time, I'm your host, Judah Boulay, reminding you to train smart, but recover smarter.